Hi, I'm Dr. Sherman, historian and author of the book In Search of Purity. I'm a Washington, D.C. based historian who focuses on eugenics, its popular, social, and scientific reinventions in the year 2019. Um, in thinking about eugenics as a pseudoscience, a science that really was something that was fabricated roughly around 1840, but impacts every portion of our lives today, I find that many folks don't know exactly what it is. Eugenics is the science of better breeding. And at the core of the concept is the idea that many Black women or women of color are outbreeding white women. And so when you think in terms of fit over unfit, or population control, as it may be talked about in news stories today, there's always a concern that too many of the wrong types of women are having babies and too many of the right type of women are not. So conversations may be about poverty, they may be about school systems, it may be about crime, but at the core of each one of those conversations, the dialogue is really about ineffective mothers and women who have children who are ineffective at mothering, and therefore they're creating burdens on society. One of the focal points of my research is looking at the year 2011 with regard to Black women and their bodies, specifically in America, and tied directly to the eugenics movement. In America, the eugenics movement was supposedly stopped as state programs, federal or state programs, roughly 1975, 1981, depending on which state. However, eugenics within federal institutions continues even until this day, and represented most often by penal systems. So if a Black woman is in prison today in America, she may be given the option of being sterilized, having a tubal ligation in order to reduce time from her jail sentence. The thought being medically and scientifically that if she is in prison, within her DNA, there is a strand in her genes for criminality, and that any children she has will also be criminals. The goal is to ensure that this woman does not have any additional children, but it is also to ensure that they can empty the prison systems out to bring more women in. In the year 2011, two states that had been very, very active in the American eugenics movement decided to offer compensation or reparations. They wanted to pay money back to the folks who they had sterilized without their knowledge or without their consent, basically saying that it was better for society that they were sterilized and it was compulsory and they had no choice or options within it. More than 7,000 people came forward within those two states, and the money was passed out, $50,000 to each one of the survivors. And going to North Carolina, where one of the states that decided to offer the compensation, I was able to listen to testimony from Black women who said that they were put in prison for things like being poor. They were told that they needed to be kept from having babies because their IQ was low. Or they were told that because they had been molested or had some type of sexual trauma that was believed they enticed, they were put into asylums, locked away for the years of their reproductive life, meaning from the time they were 12 or 13 years old up until they were 40. At that time, they were released and just kind of thrown back into society. And listening to these women, it opened the door for me to understand, and I want you all to understand, that many of these policies that led to their sterilizations are still in place today. They are talked about through birth control programs and policies across the globe. Gardasil shots. They're talked about in inoculations that inadvertently also sterilize young Black women across the country and across the globe again. The understanding then, like now, is that it's for the betterment of society rather than ensuring that these women are healthy or safe within the procedures or emotionally before or after these procedures are done. It is often still done without their consent. It is important as we go forward, whether personally or specifically within the realm of the House of Khepera, that we work to educate women as much as possible about their bodies and the rights they have over their bodies. Eugenics is a very forceful program. And when you start talking birth control, it's a very, very quick and easy thing for a doctor to explain to a mother that in order to regulate her daughter's menstrual cycle, that she needs to go on birth control at the age of 12 or 13, irrespective of the fact that she's not sexually active. This is often a means of sterilizing this child, because by the time she gets to be 21 or 22 years old, or married at 30 and decides to have children, she may find that she's unable to have children based upon the fact that she's had a long history of hormonal tampering with her system through these birth control products. It is also important today that we work. Again, if we have one or two things that you have to look forward to doing, talk to each other. The more I talk to women, in historical terms, I find that older women face these very same challenges where doctors told them, you must go in for hysterectomy, you must go in for inoculations, we must give you certain types of medicines or protocol. There's certain protocols set up specifically for you. I always challenge that, and I ask you to also challenge that. Go to the doctor, have a buddy system. Women should go to the doctor with another woman. It's easy enough to do. Have a buddy system where you have someone else there that can challenge and ask questions so that you don't feel intimidated by the process. And it is a very intimidating process. It was like that for these women who were sterilized beginning at the turn of the century in 1900. The Dutch have a fierce program as well of sterilization programs and asylums for the quote unquote feeble-minded, usually meaning women of color who were hypersexual, meaning they were having sex either early, or it was believed that because of their body type and their body structure, that they were luring men to want them. And so no actual sex needed to have taken place, but just the belief or the stereotype that Black women were aggressive and sexually viable meant that they were targets for state programs specifically looking to sterilize them. Have a buddy system with another woman. Talk to older women as much and as often as possible about ways and other resources to put their health in checks and balances. Also, if you have very small children, young girls, have conversations where you talk to them a lot about their bodies and how they feel about their bodies, how other folks may be watching their bodies or targeting their bodies. And that way they're able to come to you first and foremost with any issues that they may have surrounding not just their sexuality, but their gender, their femininity, their femaleness, and their Blackness within that female space.